What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Tapped In Indy Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Heath Mulligan, joined by my good friend, Nick McDaniel. Nick, how are you this fine morning?
It's early. Let's go with that. It's going to be a long day today between recording and other stuff I've got to do. Look, it's funny. I was joking about how, like, hey, well, the news isn't it's not a lot of news this week, which means that the show will probably be like an hour and a half because that's how me and you work, right?
Well, we were talking about it. It's WrestleMania week, but it doesn't necessarily feel like WrestleMania week. I don't know. I think for me, it's because it's Easter. It's my birthday. I'm going out of town. My weekend is not centered around WrestleMania. And so that's very weird. So do you have plans to watch? You having a big WrestleMania party? We used to watch it at my church every year on the big screen.
Yeah, no. So I'm really weird. I used to have people over, and I've learned that it's not good for me to do that. Just because a lot of the casual people like to talk during matches that I care about, and it gets loud and it's like, and I may have told you the story that one year I kind of made a point. It was like, guys, I really don't care. Like, this was the year it was Brock and Taker.
Oh.
And we had a bunch of people over, and I kind of made the comment like, hey, I understand you guys want to talk and everything. That's fine. There's really only one. When Taker and Brock wrestle, I'm telling everybody, like, I told them, like, at the beginning of the WrestleMania.
Yeah.
During that match, I just want everybody to be quiet enough that I can listen and hear what's going on, whatever. It's the only one I'm asking for.
Yeah.
And literally during that match, somebody starts just talking and I was like, I was like, I'm really sorry that I wasn't clear.
Yeah.
Like, and they're like, seriously? And I'm like, yeah, I said it at the beginning of the show. Like, I wasn't kidding.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I think at some point I realized maybe that came off a certain way. And I'm just kind of like, you know what? That's a you problem, Nick, not a them problem. Maybe it's just best if you don't watch it with a lot of people, like just kind of push back that way. So I've learned over the years. So like, Saturday and Sunday. Look, the kids are coming over for Easter. We're going to do an egg hunt with the grandkids and all that kind of stuff. But I have it timed out to where, like, they'll be gone before Mania's, the matches. The pre-show will probably on because, it's like 9 hours both days.
Right.
The pre- and post shows. But, like, hey, before the show starts, they'll be gone. And then I'll sit back down and watch it, and I'll watch the second night. So, I kind of do make it a point to sit down and watch it live. It's one of the rare PLEs, whatever, that I'm like, hey, I just kind of like to watch it as it happens.
Yes.
So to be surprised.
Fans, if you want to be surprised, you need to become a patron. Patreon.com/tappedoutpod. That's where you're going to get. Set up a free account. If you set up a free account, every week you're going to get the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight right there. That's exclusive. If you become a paid member, even at the lowest level, you're going to get show notes. We got 10 plus pages of show notes. I know you and Myron will have a lot of show notes tomorrow. You're going to get, at the higher levels, you get access to some new tapped out collectibles. Nick, tapped out collectibles, man, going like gangbusters. Can you give us a hint as to what some of our higher level people might be getting as their first surprise?
I've got to confirm it the next couple days because Friday I'm hoping to pick up the first $25 level autographed 8x10. I don't know if I want to say it because I'm afraid if it doesn't happen,
I totally understand.
Yeah, look, Brady Booker, man. I'm trying to meet up with him on Friday to get him to autograph the 8x10s for the exclusive, the first month, $25 level, and of course you'll get, if you're a $10 level, you'll get the $10 digital copy. The 25 will get both. They'll get the 8x10 and they'll get the digital copy as well. So yeah, hopefully if I can hook up with Brady Booker. Look, Brady Booker and Hunter James both confirmed they're in line to do it. It's just going to be the order of when I can meet up with each one of them, get the signatures to get the first couple months stuff squared away. So, and who knows? I've been thinking about it. I was like, maybe if I just get I may just surprise people and maybe do 2 in a month or something like that if I can get access to it, something like that. So we'll see. Maybe there'll be a surprise one in your package when it shows up as well. So you never know. But I tell you what, dude, I've done a couple over the past couple of weeks I'm really, really happy with. So definitely start looking at the merch tables when you're at the indie shows and asking them if you don't see one of the tapped out comic book cover designs and you want one of that, whatever your favorite talent is, ask them at the table because it's, easier for them to call, hit me up and say like, hey, I need to get some because we're not going to sell them individually as of right now. So the plan would be you got to ask them to get on board with it as well. So the more you ask, the more likely they are to do it. And look, it's right now it's 4x5s, 8x10s. I've expanded to 11x17s if they want those to the poster size. And yesterday I'm not committing to this, but I think I'm going to get into the trading card thing.
Oh, nice.
I had finally found a vendor that can handle maybe doing the trading cards for me. So if they can do the trading cards, that'll be fun too.
Dude, I tell you, fans, there's never been a better time to get on the tapped out bandwagon there at patreon.com/tapped-out-pod. Let's jump into the news this week. Starting off, we did mention it's WrestleMania week, and the WWE ID Championship tournament is starting this week. It wasn't announced if the full thing's going to be. We don't think the full thing's going to be this week, but the opening matches are going to be this week. They've announced that the ID titles are going to be able to be defended anywhere and can be won by anyone. And if a non-ID talent wins it, then they get an ID talent contract. Nick, I have to think, though, that's got to be approved by the office. Like, that's not just going to be some willy-nilly kind of thing.
It's a tool. I think it's going to be a tool to announce. It's a better way than just putting on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram or whatever. This person's been tagged. Hey, shockingly, they won the title, so now they're ID'd. I actually, believe it or not, like that tool, by the way. I think it's a really cool, it would be a cool way. I can't wait to see who the first, male, female ID'd, or newly ID'd comes about this way. And honestly, it wouldn't shock me to see it happen more often than the just the typical like let's just tag them. I think it's a better way to do it. What would really be a cool twist is if you lost the title, you lost your ID designation.
Oh,
and they take your spot. That would be different.
Man.
Now I get it. That's not something they probably want to do. Because that's kind of, that's a real stinker onto the guy or girl who loses. But that would be funny if you knew a guy like, hey, insert wrestlers decided they're hanging it up. And so they could be like, I'll put my ID spot on the line, and then they lose and that person gets their spot or something like that. That'd be interesting. But I do like the concept. I especially like that they're opening it up in general to, everybody.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, we're only about 6 months into this whole experiment. So it's going to be very interesting to see where this goes. I haven't seen they're using Evolve kind of as a vehicle to introduce some of these people. So it's just going to be very interesting. One question I wanted to ask you, is it more beneficial to have a WWE ID match where you bring in two ID talents to face each other, or do you think it'd be better to bring in an ID talent to face one of your promotion guys to use it as a way of maybe getting them over and putting them in a spotlight?
It probably depends on the promotion, but the structure of the promotion. And I know you're probably like, what does that mean? So like for me, and I'm just going to use some that are close to home in the sense of the word. I'm trying to think like if you were like Disruptor, their model would be, hey, we bring in outside talents to face each other all the time. It just creates the match, whatever. Maybe doing both makes sense. If you're a promotion like Southern Honor or Southern Fried specifically, or, whatever, when you're talking about their story driven, or
Yeah.
whatever. And the long term, they're not real big on like, hey, let's just have a match that the fan, like
Right.
wrestling fans aren't coming to there. They're very more casual, like, hey, we're behind the brand that we like and the stories that are going on. I think in that scenario, those promotions probably get more out of it when you bring in one guy and he's like, elevating your home, I don't want to say homegrown guy or whatever, but,
Mhm.
the guy that could benefit from it maybe. But here's the thing. I asked this question. I was going to surprise you with this question because a lot of people I'm going to catch a ton of flack for this one. There was a time where I asked myself, what does that even get you as an indie promotion in general? Like having a WWE ID match. Like I understand the talent benefits from it. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm saying, John Q. Public promotion down the street saying we're going to have a WWE ID match. I would beg to argue, I don't even know that the casual fan in town even knows what that means.
Right. Right. I think it's along the lines of having a random title defended on your card that's not tied to your promotion. I think internally, and when I was helping book stuff, I was booking stuff that was for me and not the casual fan. I was booking stuff I wanted to see that made sense to me. I could follow all the angles. I could follow it. It made sense to me. But if it doesn't make sense to Johnny Green on the corner, it doesn't matter. And so I think most people don't even know. Do a lot of independent fans even follow? Are they I mean, they'll watch WWE. I mean, they'll watch WrestleMania, but I don't know that they're watching every single week. And so I think there's definitely some insulation where it's like an echo chamber. So we all know about it, but again, the casual fan, it doesn't. If you ask, we could go to half the fans from shows this weekend. Hey, what do you think about this? Well, what is that? They don't even know.
Yeah.
They
I don't
don't
mind
even know.
booking a talent like Sean Legacy and saying he's a WWE ID guy. That I think the WWE ID thing on the thing draws some attention to it, but
Yeah.
it's a WWE ID match or show. I don't know that, and maybe maybe I'm underestimating it because we see it all the time, everywhere, and I'm just kind of like I don't know that sells to the casual wrestling fan of your promotion. Sean Legacy sells because he's Sean Legacy, especially
Yes.
here in Georgia. But when you say, WWE ID Marcus Mathers or whatever, I'm like, to the Georgia fan, I'm like, does he wrestle on Raw or does he, what do you mean?
Would you and I care about this program, WWEID program, a lot less if it weren't for Sean Legacy? I don't know that we would have covered it. We would have probably covered it 90% less. But because it's someone we're familiar with, someone we're connected to, and someone we talk about regularly anyway, it's just been
I
a natural thing to talk about the program.
I think, and here's the thing. Maybe I think I would have, but it's also because I do another show that's tied to to the WWE as well. I think
Right.
it affects both shows to the level that I felt like that was relevant. But at the same time, we're so excited about it because we see it as a gateway for a guy like Sean Legacy, who we think can make it there. And we just saw it as another avenue for him to get an opportunity, and that's a huge thing. So maybe that's a lean. But honestly, yes, we probably would have covered it just from the sake of there's a national show and there's an indie show, so this is kind of the bridge between the two, maybe. So
Yes. Yes. Speaking of Sean Legacy, it was announced on Saturday that at the next Viral Pro Wrestling show, which will be in June, that he will be taking on Jackson Drake in a WWE ID uh, match, feature match. Now, Viral is after Phoenix was the first to book this match. And then Action booked it. Viral is now the third promotion to book this match. However, to me, it makes the most sense because both of those guys are members of Viral's roster. Jackson Drake's been teaming with Alexander Lev. Sean Legacy's been there forever. There's a question in there somewhere of are more promotions going to jump on and book this particular match because both of these guys are. I mean, Sean Legacy's very local, and Jackson Drake's not too far away.
Could be. And I can say I think this would this would have been a match that could have happened regardless of any ID status of either guy at Viral. I think that's kind of maybe the point you're going with, right? Like it's like this could have in any way. We just know it's not complicated because I know a lot of people are trying to overblown how complicated it is to have an ID match on your card. It's not. Right. There are some obstacles that we've learned that, like, as far as like especially billing it as an ID match, there's some things, especially for a local show that they got to kind of work around. But I mean, I think, like you said, I think Viral, it just kind of suits because look, that's for a long time that was kind of a Sean Legacy base. I mean, before the whole tag team debacle or whatever, him and it was Buff and Fluff were your champions, so that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, Sean Legacy actually, I think he's the only Triple Crown winner down there at Viral. He's been Outbreak champion, heavyweight champion, and tag team champion. Let's stay on the topic of Viral Pro Wrestling. They had a big show, big crowd on Masters Weekend Saturday night. Following the main event, you had John Skyler and Slim J, the final match of the three-match best of three series, the dog collar match. And John Skyler was able to get the win. But following the match, John Skyler got in a verbal confrontation with it appeared to be a fan. However, it was former pro wrestler Josh Magnum. Skyler nailed him, and then Magnum jumped the guardrail. They had to be separated. It was a whole thing, a whole mess. For those of you who don't know who Josh Magnum is, I don't think Josh Magnum's ever wrestled in Viral. He was a mainstay in Orangeburg, South Carolina. And now I'm so sorry. I cannot remember the name of the promotion. They went out of business several years ago. But then he wrestled for Bob Keller's promotion, WrestleForce, and then Midlands Championship Wrestling. He was a tag team champion there. He feuded with Sean Legacy in IWE, but has been out of the picture for 2+ years, maybe even more. But he and John Skyler, no strangers to each other. Again, both, I would consider them both kind of Bob Keller guys. But the question is, why was Josh Magnum there? I think he lives in that area. And then what did he say to John Skyler? Now, John Skyler doesn't have the longest fuse in the world, but what did he say to John Skyler to set him off and escalate all of this? That's what I want to know.
Was it personal? Is it something that's going to, I mean, there was, do they have an issue that maybe nobody knows about? Being, look, we've seen it multiple promotions now where guys that we've known each other a long time. Even some guys hey, we've been buddies for a long time.
Right.
Sometimes, I always joke, sometimes you can just be around somebody too much to eventually, especially wrestling. Everybody's trying to, be the top guy. Everybody and it's from a school of thought, the old school thought. And John Skyler strikes me as an old school, thought guy.
Right.
And, hey, if you want to move up the card and you're wanting my spot, you got to push me down to move up. Who knows? So this friction could have been building forever. And that was just the moment where it just, exploded. And like I said, everybody having to separate them, and it just was total chaos there for a minute.
Do you think Skyler may have been upset? John Skyler, you talk about the Carolinas and Georgia and TNA. John Skyler has a list of impressive wins throughout his career. You're beating Slim J, beat him in 2 out of 3, beat him in a dog collar match. Great accomplishment. And now you got this guy messing with it. Like when you should be celebrating, when you should be kind of basking in, this guy kind of cuts in on you. So maybe that was the whole thing.
Just ruined his moment. Like, hey, this is my moment. It could be something that, and sometimes it's that simple. And look, you just had a match where you can totally wrap your head around the fact. Look, like him or no, you can get that maybe the adrenaline's pumping and he's really jacked up on from having that that match or whatever, and then this guy just says the wrong thing to him. Wrestlers have to be better than that. You got to know but the problem when it's another wrestler and it's not just a fan.
Right.
Like maybe the logic is he should know better. Don't push me right now.
Right. Well, to me, if you are a wrestler who bought a ticket, and John Skyler and Josh Magnum know each other. So to me, it's a little bit different that it's somebody it's somebody is a wrestler. It's really somebody who ought to know better. Like you said, somebody ought to know better. Anyway, the bottom line is this. It was hot. The Viral Pro Wrestling was hot Saturday night. We'll have a lot more about them on the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight, which you can watch exclusively at patreon.com/taptoutpod. Moving on, WrestleMerica had a big show also Saturday night, and the youth movement has officially begun. KJ Impala won the heavyweight title, and Parker Lee won the Liberty title. Both these guys, I think is this Parker Lee's first singles title in Georgia. KJ Impala has been a champion there before, but they've now dethroned Fry Daddy and CT Keys, and it seems like WrestleMerica is kind of set for the future.
Well, hey, just clarification though. Parker defeated Anthony Andrews. Remember, Anthony Andrews had defeated CT Keys a while back.
Right. Correct. Correct.
And here's the thing. Parker defeated a guy who had taken that title all over the country and defended it.
Yes.
So I just wanted to make sure we got that. But these two young kids, have come really far, really fast. WrestleMerica is a real player, when it comes to the promotions in Georgia, and for those two guys, to look, like you said, KJ's been there longer. He had been that Liberty champion, and he had done the, we call it the IC to the world title route. He took the Liberty championship, whatever. Look, Parker Lee, maybe, you could arguably say he's on the same path, on the same trajectory. He came a little bit later. He may be the guy that challenges KJ down the road. You know what I mean? And then it's just really cool to see. We always talk about guys getting opportunities to elevate to that next level, and and especially here in Georgia, it's like, hey, you're in one place, and I'm going to discuss this a little bit. Actually, I need to have that conversation with you off the air, not on the air. Sorry. But we're guys hey, we start here. You get some experience, get some ring time, get some mic time. Then we elevate to the next promotion, and along the way, you're capturing gold at each tier. A ball, double A, single. A ball, double A, triple A, etc. And now we're seeing these guys who have slowly over time elevated, and now you're the guy. Like KJ's the guy,
right,
at WrestleMerica, which is clearly one of the better promotions here in Georgia. So it's a cool milestone for both of these guys. And I just everybody's like, well, why is this so? You think it's no? Again, it's because it's two really young, and we're starting to see that across Georgia in general. And we've always complained, for all those people that complain, it's the same old guys at the top. It's the same old guys at the top. Start looking around. Hunter James is your Coastal Empire champion. Now we have KJ Empire. We're starting to see some of these younger guys capture some of these gold. And by the way, it's not a bad thing that you have guys like Joe Black at Southern Honor, Sal Renaro, Carly Bravo. So it's a good mixture of you want it to be, because those old, I say the older veterans, that's who they beat to make the young guys even more important. Is they can't beat each other. They have to beat somebody that's got a name to elevate them in that win. So, and for KJ to do that against the Fry Daddy, and again, Parker Lee to do it against the guy who defended that Liberty title all over the country, that's what makes it so much better when they win it.
Yes. Another thing about, KJ and Parker Lee is, how do I say, as far as the awards, those are not, I want to be very diplomatic in what I'm about to say. When it comes to awards in Georgia, there seems to be a pool of people a pool of promotions, a pool of people that are kind of in the end circle. WrestleMerica is kind of on the outside of that, as are KJ Impala and Parker Lee. So to see them get that, does that expand this inner circle or whatever? I don't know the question of that. That just something to think about. But there you go. See, it's a pretty easy question.
Yeah, it's pretty
easy. We mentioned double A, single A, triple A, all that. The Royston Dome this weekend opened up. If you've ever been to the Royston Dome, they kind of have their big section where Apocalypse or / SCA runs, and they've opened up a smaller half called the Domeinion. Pretty good. Scrappy Championship Wrestling ran the first show there this past Sunday. This provides a tighter, smaller venue. So for promotions wanting to run and they need to keep their costs down, but also we've seen where, and I have promoted shows that were run in a 600-seat gym and drew about 60 people. It does not look good.
Correct.
So this provides a good-looking space to look like whether you draw 40, 60, 70, the people are jammed in there pretty well.
Yeah, we had the pleasure to get a tour of it. We went to Apocalypse Pro Wrestling on Friday, and we got a tour of it after the show. They kind of were showing us like how it was set up and what it looked like, and it was pretty cool to see. Like I said, because that was my big thing. Is I thought, these other promotions that run in there that are drawing a little bit of a smaller crowd, it does dramatically look empty. In the larger area where they, SCA, Apocalypse Pro Wrestling, run. To see it like very intimate, very small. With like this, a row of chairs, and I'm like, dude, this looks good. And we saw some footage from Scrappy, and it was very effective for what they were trying to do. And
yes.
I think it was really smart on their behalf to actually run that, set that up the way they have, and it's pretty unique to know. I told somebody, excuse me, little sidebar note. I don't even know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but the ring they're using, absolute legends have wrestled in. It is the ring that they used at NWA Wildside. Like, that is the ring that's in there.
That was posted on social media, I think.
That's right. That's right. They did. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a pretty cool thing right there. That's pretty cool.
The amount of technology that they put into that, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's a smaller side, it's a smaller intimate. But the amount of technology and the stuff that they put in there, like I said, we got the tour and they showed it all, and I'm like, it's like you're running, like, look, you're not giving up anything other than it's a great way to, like you said, make your, to fill your crowd in. Because by default, we always know that people, when they come in, if you give them enough space, people just spread out. It's just by nature. I'm not really sure why that happens, but that's just kind of what we do. And I love the fact that it kind of pushes them in a little bit and kind of says, hey, let's make this, as visually appealing as we can, and I think they're going to do a great job of that. And I was really happy for them. Look, I think it's an opportunity for, like I said, for somebody like I imagine, your Scrappy, Nerd and some other those shows that run up there. That'll be where they run, and I think it'll help their especially their video presentation tremendously.
Yeah, and we talked about it when the Royston Dome kind of was becoming a thing. We were asking, can it support? At one point, I think it was 4 or 5 promotions. I think we've seen Apocalypse is going to run regularly. No one else has really run regularly. But I do think having this smaller space might encourage Nerd Scrappy, others, maybe to run more regularly if the cost is lower, if it's a more manageable space. We could see business really pick up in the Royston Dome.
Yeah.
Let's move on to this month's hot hand. This is where we talk about the wrestlers, promotions, factions, people who are really on a roll in Georgia wrestling. These are in no particular order. Let's start off with Alexander Lev. Alexander Lev, we talk about him a lot. Junior champion there at Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment. He's been in the thick of things. He's now, I believe, number 1 contender for the Jake the Snake Legacy title. He joined, again, we'll cover this more on the Spotlight, just joined Apocalypse. He was Amy Haven's first person she picked as in her army or whatever she calls it in Next Level. Heavyweight champion in
New Legacy,
yeah. So Alexander Lev here in early 2025, a major player at multiple promotions.
Yeah, and was just in the big title thing at like the tag title. I mean, look, he is a absolute, on a tear everywhere and anywhere he is. He is by far and away in the main event scene. And like you said, even just coming off of the big feud, coming out of that Joe Black that led him into being the guy for the Jake the Snake title. Yeah, he's an easy pick. He was like one that didn't even have to. It just literally, as you're typing the notes, it's the first name that comes to mind and type out.
Yes. The next one may be a shock because they literally haven't even started yet. Well, they've started in many ways. And that's One Fall Wrestling. They start up this weekend, and we were saying over the next month, they will run more shows in the next month than some shows will run, than some promotions will run the entire year.
Yeah. I mean, literally, essentially their inaugural show's Friday. My plan is to go to that show on Friday and check it out, the debut show. They have one on Monday. They have, then we go into the next weekend. It's like, before you know it, there's 4 in one day on May 3rd. There's a show, back in Watkinsville, on a Friday. I was like, yeah, I started adding them up, and I'm like, oh, the coming debut show is, it's on the 25th. And they are without a doubt, when we talk about hot, why is it hot? Like you said, just the sheer volume of shows in a short period of time. I would be typically nervous if a promotion was telling me they were running 4 shows in a day. I would be just twitching and nervous. But I have zero hesitation that they're going to pull it off. Will there be bumps? Sure. There always is, right? When you run one show, there's hiccups along the way. But I don't know to the common person that we, just from the outside looking in, anybody will notice. They'll figure it out. The staff there, with Scott and, QT and then all of the parties that help out there behind the scenes, I don't see it as an issue. But how confident in your abilities do you have to do to pull off 4 shows in a day?
I think they've used the last year definitely to learn some things. And they are nothing if not aggressive. And it has definitely rubbed some people the wrong way. And what we have said from the beginning, even back to the turnbuckle days, they're playing a different game than everybody else. They're not trying to win awards. They're not trying to make friends. They're trying to run a business. They're not playing by the unwritten rules of Georgia wrestling. They're not doing all that. They are doing what is best for their brand, their business, their people.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just it. They've been that way since the beginning. And that's look, hey, how could they be the hot hand and have it run? Look, let's be blunt with everybody. This is the infrastructure of Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling under the new banner of One Fall Wrestling,
Yes.
and that team they've been on a roll for the better part of a year. I mean, so that's why we're just like, hey, we had to type the name different, but it's essentially the base and the same structure and the same talents, and not a lot's going to change other than that name at the top of the poster.
Correct. A lot of the same talents, and a lot of new talents. I yes, I there's a lot more to be said. That may be a Patreon. Next we have Apocalypse. Not Apocalypse Pro Wrestling, the literal faction Apocalypse, who ran the table Friday night at Pick Your Poison. We'll talk about that more on the spotlight, and came out with all the titles. You'll be able to watch that coming up on YouTube. And so, in just a short time, John the Body Johnson is running the table. He's convinced Jonathan Feltner to work for him. They have all the titles, and they show no signs of weakening. They show no signs of stopping. They've added Alexander Lev. Luke Da Silva got a big win over Slim J. Apocalypse has maybe taken notice of another faction we'll talk about and said, hey, hold my beer. Here we go.
Yeah. If I'm Drox is the only title they do not have the Friday Night Championship. If I'm Drox, I realize there's a bullseye on my back probably from day one, of being the champion. And we'll go into that a little bit into the spotlight as well about his win. They have absolutely taken control, even to the top level. That's one of the reasons why you want to listen to the spotlight. We're going to go into the deeper dive of why they are. But again, having all of the major titles, they're the singles champion, they're the tag champions. They literally have control of the company. Alexander Lev, a guy who's on that list. I mean, maybe we should have blurted in and I just wanted to save it. I didn't want to spoil that Apocalypse was on the list and say that that's, part of the reason why they're just hot right now. I mean, they just are when it comes to, it's tough to take them out of that position.
And we've also seen since the start of this angle, the Friday night crowds at Royston have reached a different level. Mm-hmm. And all the more reason to put Apocalypse on our hot hand list. Next we have, I would say, the power couple in Georgia at the moment. That's Parker Lee and Hyena Hera. Following Parker Lee's victory for that Liberty title in WrestleMerica, Hyena Hera had a successful defense of that PCW women's title. But these two continue to show kind of a different side of themselves. But inside and outside the ring, they are proving to be a dominant force.
Yeah, I mean, look, she's multiple promotion women's champion. Parker Lee is, like you said, is the Liberty champion as of this past weekend. Weekend before that, he picked up a massive win over QT Marshall up at Watkinsville, to the point that QT wanted a rematch. Like, they're doing it at the Monday show. It's a QT and Helica Risk versus Hyena Hera and Parker Lee in a match. Parker Lee, think about this. QT Marshall wants a match with Parker Lee. Mm-hmm. That means you're hot. Like, that means you've got a lot of momentum. Parker Lee didn't challenge QT. Like, reverse that. So I think that shows where they are in every single place they are. It's kind of the same thing. Like, how do you become a hot hand? You start being a player everywhere you're popping up. And with her, like think about it, she's champion almost everywhere she's at.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to argue that. And him, it's kind of crazy to say that Parker Lee's finally lifting up to his half of the power couple, because she's been sitting there with all that gold, and now he's got his, and getting into this situation with QT even elevates him even further. So that's why they belong clearly as the power couple right there in the spot.
Yeah, and they haven't even scratched the surface of their potential as individuals or as a couple. Finally, on the hot hand, this group continues to grow in power and in titles across multiple promotions, and that is the Crusade, led by Hunter James. They continue. I mean, they're starting now to almost put people out of wrestling. Like they're kind of reaching this. It's, they're starting to get a little vicious. Yeah. But the Crusade shows no signs of slowing down. And the question is, and at least in Southern Fried, is the Sexton Alliance going to be strong enough to stop them?
Look, that's your case to be made, right? How are they the hot hand? They lost a while back. Well, that's the problem. They rebounded tremendously from that loss to pick up a win, to now they get to name the stipulation against the Sexton Alliance. Oh, but let's, hey, I get it. We're like focused on, them in Southern Fried. Not so fast, my friend, as a guy once said, right? That it's like Hunter James is your Coastal Empire champion. Grillo and Pat Roach are the champions at Southern Fried and at GCW. By the way, Kat Spencer's your women's, champion at Southern Fried. On and on and on. Meanwhile, while running through all these titles, they're taking out Adrian Hawkins. They're taking out Bobby Moore at the last Southern Fried show. They are literally picking the Sexton Alliance apart one by one and taking them out. And like you said, we're getting to a match at some point here. They're gonna take their time to name their stipulation there. Is there going to be a Sexton Alliance left to stop them? That's the question.
Yes. And if the Sexton Alliance fails to stop the Crusade, what then? Who's going to rise up? Or is this something where, the Crusade just continues dominance for a year or more? Often I would love to see, and it's hard to do in indie wrestling, I would love to see a multi-year storyline. I think there are some things that just, we've talked about in other promotions where, 2 shows later, we're already at the grand finale. I'm like, wait a minute, this is how you end a feud, not how you start a feud.
If any promotion can do it, and then I'm just, look, it's not a knock on anybody outside of it. Yeah. But if any promotion could pull off a 2-year storyline, it's Southern Fried.
Yes. They've got the infrastructure. They've got you almost have to have the willpower to do something like that. And I think they do. And that would be fun to see. But anyway, the Crusade, it definitely has the hot hand. Fans, don't forget the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight comes to you every week. It's where we go over all the shows that happened the past weekend. We talk about what's coming up and making the drives. Patreon.com/tappedoutpod is where you can get all of that. All you got to do is sign up for a free account to get that show for free. At the paid level, you start getting show notes, 10 pages of show notes today. Lots of stuff. I already know in the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight, we're not going to get to all the notes. We never do. It is too much to get to in an hour. And so if you really want to get the deepest, truest coverage of Georgia wrestling, it's by becoming a paying member and getting those show notes. You get all the shows early. You get early releases. But it's a great way to support the show. Nick, what are you and it's WrestleMania week. Dare I ask what you and Myron are going to be talking about on the Tapped Out show this week?
I mean, it's WrestleMania week. What better to do than a prediction episode? We're gonna go through all the matches, but it's not just us picking the winners. We're also kind of gonna grade out like the storylines of how we got here. There's been a lot of opinion shared online about the WrestleMania build this year, so we're kind of going to go into that a little bit. And as a little bit of a teaser, we're going to discuss ticket sales. There's been some criticism of ticket sales, and so we're going to touch on that a little bit as well. So obviously, it's a big WrestleMania weekend, coming up. So that's what we're going to dive into. And so if you want to get into hearing your opinions, by the way, absolutely feel free to send in your predictions. tappedoutpod@gmail.com. We'll kind of look those over, and if anybody I'd love to see somebody hit the absolute home run and get them all right, because that's a big card to guess. And speaking of Patreon, I put up this week the betting odds came out for all of the matches, and that was at the $5 level, so it's a little bit of a higher tier. It's only available there. It's not going to be released out to the public at all. It's kind of one of the reasons why you want to sign up. Like I said, it's you get some stuff starting to tier into these. Even the dollar level gets you the reviews for all of the shows every week on TV, the TV shows and the PLEs and all that kind of stuff. So, I think it's a good value for the money. I know we got a lot of people joining and jumping in and coming back. Had some people come back this week as well. So,
can you bet on WWE and like DraftKings and stuff?
It's not like DraftKings or whatever. And now I know. I believe it was DraftKings. A lot of times with theirs, they'll do stuff with no money. Like you can bet in contests to see who gets the most right, and you can win prizes and things like that. But but there are some betting sites which blows me away. Just absolutely blows me away. Because I'm like, don't you think they're smart enough to have somebody on the inside like giving them the odds so they can figure that stuff out? They're not going to leave it to chance for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. Fans, don't leave it to chance. Make sure you are subscribed right here to our YouTube channel, tappedoutpod.com. It takes you right to it. You got to subscribe, hit the thumbs up button on all our videos, and hit that bell to get all the notifications so you never miss the latest, most up-to-date coverage of Georgia independent wrestling and all your favorite wrestling around the world. But for this week's edition of the Tapped In Indie Wrestling Podcast, I'm Heath Mulligan. For Nick McDaniel, we hope to see you at the matches.